What's up, everybody, and welcome to the iReach podcast. I'm your host, Paul Robinson, founder and CEO of ConstructReach, a national consultancy and initiative that aims to diversify the construction, design, and innovation industries and empower a younger generation. Every single week, we are here merging education, industry, and culture with a variety of featured guests that you do not want to miss. So let's go, iReach. All right, what's up, everybody? This is Paul Robinson back here with the iReach podcast. And guess what? We've got the whole fam in. Yes, that is right. The ConstructReach team is here today. We're going to go around. You're going to hear who the team is, what they do, their roles and responsibility, and how we are attacking this need for workforce development and diversity within the industry of construction, innovation, and design. I want to get into some very important information. I want to get into some very important things, strategies that we do as a company, and talk to it with our audience from each and every one of your particular lenses, right? So let's just go around here. Jennifer, how's it going? You want to introduce yourself? Tell our listening viewers what your role is and what you do at ConstructReach.
Yeah, thank you, Paul, for having me today. So my name is Jencrine, and I am our program and education manager. And I get the honor of onboarding interns, working on the curriculum, collaborating on that, on our dual approach, professional development curriculum, walking alongside them on that. And I also get to walk alongside our DEI journey with our clients and our awesome team.
Nice, nice, nice. And then next up, we've got Rebecca Wilson. Rebecca, how's it going?
Good, Paul. Thank you for having me.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. And Rebecca, so you are in marketing. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, so I'm the marketing specialist here at ConstructReach, and that means that I get to collaborate with our clients on their marketing materials and assist them with graphic design to really show the culture of their company and get their message across to everybody following their social media platforms.
Yes, yes. And that is key. We are going to come back to that, especially as we find ourselves in this technological age, knowing that the younger demographic is so technologically savvy. And that is a perfect segue into our intern, into my man, Terrez Jones, who interns with us at ConstructReach. What's up, Terrez? How you doing, man?
Pretty good. How about yourself?
I'm doing well, sir. Good. So listen, we've got the whole team on, just about, right? We've got the majority of our team on, but this is going to be just a typical conversation. You know, we get a chance to talk through what we do here at ConstructReach, the why behind our initiatives, the why behind our work. And so you get a chance to hear it, right? Straight from the team. So Ebony, you know, you are in charge of community relations, workforce development initiatives, and building those relationships with partners. When you think about engaging the community, talk to us a little bit about kind of what that approach is and what sets us apart, or why do we have a unique approach to engaging that demographic and uniting these stakeholders together to solve this industry problem?
I get so excited about what we do right here at ConstructReach. As you alluded to already, what I do, I also say that I'm an advocate for the industry. We get a chance to really lean on and kind of also pull in our industry stakeholders. So who are the stakeholders, right? That is our educators. That is the industry itself, whether it's general contractors, the brands that demand the construction, but also the new talent, right? That is looking to come into the industry. So what we do in that uniquely is that it's not siloed, right? We understand there's an interdependence of all these different stakeholders that they impact one another. So how can we do it collectively and continuously to continue to create really a pipeline of talent that is kind of narrow right now? It's in its stages of trying to further develop. How do we do it together versus siloed? So I think that's the unique approach that we have. We get a chance to leverage social responsibility like that we're seeing across the board, across various sectors about, hey, we really want to make sure we're intentional with the brands who are building, that they're intentional with how they're building in those communities, how the community is a part of that build, and then also how our educators having accessibility to real time in 2022, what is happening in the industry, especially when you think about beyond the hard hat and the hammer, what's going on in technology as it relates to construction, what's going on from the business aspect, what's going on from the trade skills aspect, right? How do we pull all those things together? So we have a unique approach, again, that aligns everybody that's involved and impacts this awesome talent pipeline soon to come.
Yeah, that's key. Some of the things that you touched on, because there's a lot of stakeholders that play a role in the entire construction industry pipeline. When you think about the corporations and the brands that really set the demand for the industry, when they're ready to reinvest in themselves or expand in a variety of different ways or expand their footprint, right? That lends itself to construction in terms of new build or renovations or remodels. And you have that other key stakeholder, which are the employers within the construction industry. And not only that, now you have the educators as well. And from a general standpoint, educators, they see themselves as the gatekeepers because they have accessibility to all of these students, right? Tomorrow's talent, if you will, that's going to fill the workforce. And we want to make sure that we're putting them in the best position to speak in an informed way about the opportunities that exist post high school. And so you have them being a large stakeholder. And then, of course, that untapped potential that's out there, the younger demographic. And the interesting thing about the demographic, right, that the industry is in such need of as it needs to grow younger to offset an entire generation that is retiring out of the industry, is that this generation is the most diverse that it has ever been. So there's a unique opportunity there, but also the need for intentionality to recognize that even though there's a ton of opportunities, the industry has to make sure that they're in a healthy position to receive the young talent that's out there, right? So that lends itself to some of the DEI strategies, implementation, and the culture that you're building within your company. And that's a perfect segue over to Jennifer. So Jennifer, when we're talking about the need for companies to be in a healthy state to receive young talent, we're not talking about companies having to be perfect, right? Because nobody's going to be perfect, but you can be healthy. You can be healthy. So when we're talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion, when we're talking about DEI, right, those three letters get tossed around a lot, especially since that's become more of a mainstream conversation. But talk to us a little bit about how important it is for companies to be operating from the same working definition of what DEI is.
Yeah, that's a great question, Paul. I love this question. So there's a short story I like to share regarding this. So one day there's a man who's walking down the road. And as he's walking down the road, he comes across a gentleman who's stacking bricks. And he says to the gentleman, "What are you doing?" And the gentleman says, "I'm stacking bricks." So as he continues on his path, he comes across another gentleman. And he says to the gentleman, "What are you doing?" And the gentleman smiles and he says, "I'm building a wall." He continues a little farther down his path and he comes across this guy who's singing, he's smiling ear to ear, and he's stacking bricks. And he says to this gentleman, "What are you doing?" And this gentleman says, "I'm building the palace." And I share this story because it really helps us understand when we have a shared language, we can buy in and empower teammates to really see their role and how to achieve the goal, right? When they understand, they can see how they can be involved and they personally connect to the goal.
Oh, that is good, Jen. When you said that, it made me think about this. The importance of a vision, right? So when you are casting vision, you're casting this big picture of where you're trying to go. But the importance of vision is that it puts the present into context. And so with you giving that analogy, with having the shared language and the shared definition of how important that is, then people are able to be empowered in their individual roles and see how that plays a part into the grand scheme of things, into the big picture, into the overall company's goals and desires, right? And so I love that that analogy that you gave. And I mean, that hits the nail right on the head. No pun intended, right?
Yes, absolutely, Paul. We know that it really empowers and energizes people when they feel like they're part of the vision and they embody that and they see how their role can play a part in that.
Yeah. No, that is great. Thanks for sharing that. And just to stick here on this topic, in terms of DEI, because companies want to know, right? How can I begin to lean more into this? How can I begin to foster change within my company? One of the things that we tell our clients and our partners is that, guess what? This is not a cookie cutter approach, and it does not happen overnight. We have to understand that there are not these, 3 magical steps that you're going to do, and then everything is just going to be transformed, right, overnight. It's a process, but it's an intentional effort that has to take place. So when we're talking about the importance of shared language, when we're talking about the importance of making sure that people understand what that means, and then empowering them to be part of that change, to galvanize that change. Another aspect that we talk about as well is the importance of recognizing maybe unconscious biases, right? Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely, Paul. So the human brain within 7 seconds can categorize people as a survival response. We can categorize situations in humans into safe or dangerous in our brain. This comes from a survival mode. Well, a lot of times what we categorize as safe is what's familiar, what we're used to, what looks, what thinks, what acts like us, what we've had exposure to, what our experiences have been. So every single human has had this hardwired into their brain. So what we have to do is we have to be very conscious of how this can affect our thinking patterns. For example, where this can come into play in the workplace is, let's say you task me with a project, right? And it has a marketing lens of delivery for a client. But perhaps I choose to partner with Ebony because we both like Italian food and karaoke, and we've bonded over that. And I'm comfortable and familiar with Ebony. So it's the easy choice for me, but maybe for the best deliverable for the client and what's best for the company is for Rebecca and I to partner on that. So we have to be really aware of how we're thinking in those patterns, and we have to interrupt or disrupt those patterns. So the number one key is being aware. The second part of that is intentionally and consciously disrupting or interrupting those behaviors.
Oh, wow. Yeah. You know what? We can talk about change until it's time to change. And that's where things get really, really uncomfortable, because we have to deal with things that come naturally for us. And when you talk about disrupting biases, I mean, that's something that we do so easily, right? It's second nature. It's almost like breathing. And I think we have to understand the role that plays, how significant of a role it plays when we are in the process of leading others, when we want to foster a company culture that is inclusive for everybody. Sometimes we don't even understand maybe the barriers that are being put in place because we're operating from this lens that we're just unaware of. And companies are beginning to implement a lot of the bias training, into their professional development to make sure that they're interrupting that, right? They're bringing and raising that level of awareness in a very healthy way to navigate through the change that they ultimately need, that we all need, right? In terms of more equity, building a workplace, building a workforce that we can all be proud of, where individuals can be attracted, the affinity can be there, and then the expectation and the opportunity to thrive exists.
Absolutely, Paul. And when we're talking about bias, it's really important to understand that shame that usually accompanies bias. When you're talking about it, there's a lot of shame that can be evoked. So we really help people understand that if you're human, you have bias. It is neuroscience, right? It is how our brains gather information and process information daily. So when we're looking at bias in the workplace and how to interrupt that, there's several approaches you can take. One is awareness. You absolutely have to be aware and have to take a really transparent look and be honest of what your biases are. Two, you have to make a conscious decision to disrupt that. So if I'm aware that I may choose somebody I'm comfortable with on a project, I have to really be heightened when I'm choosing. I may look at going to metrics or things outside my own personal influence, or I may bring in other opinions. So that's where a lot of data, a lot of question asking can really come into play, and bringing outside influences so that we're not relying only on that bias or what may feel like a natural or gut instinct.
Yeah. We often say, feedback is a gift, right? Having things reflected back to you, because sometimes we're just too close to a situation to see the bigger picture, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And
Yes.
we've learned in company performance, that profit margins are higher, that employees are more active, they're excited, they're empowered, they're engaged. When we have a workplace that's really open to learning how to be aware of our own bias and how to create an environment where everybody can thrive, right? Everyone brings their authentic self to work, it's strength-based, and they can thrive for who they are and what they're there to give to the company.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I love it. Thanks, Jen. Let's see. And so that lends itself right to how a company brings visibility and awareness to who they are to attract this younger demographic. And that leads us right into marketing, right? External communications, reaching people where they are. So Rebecca, talk to us a little bit about how important it is for companies to understand the value and lean into, right, the value that social media and even your website offers from a younger demographic and their perspective.
Right. Well, marketing through your website and your social media platforms is absolutely crucial when seeking a young, new generation of employees. Think of it as a brochure. It's the first thing that they're going to see when they start combing through the internet to learn more about your company. So social media recruiting it's growing every year. Right now, 79% of job seekers have used social media when conducting their job search. And it's no secret that the younger generation has the internet in front of them at all times. So if you really want to find them for your opening job positions, you should really engage them on a turf that they're familiar with. So LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, they expect you to seek them out on the social media platforms more so than a job board. That's becoming the new norm right now.
Yeah. And it's also important to understand how each one of those platforms is really for particular things, right? And so you have to understand the different nuances, because sometimes you will have a company that will just have a post and it's the exact same post on all platforms, but different platforms offer different things, right? Different platforms really kind of amplify or position for particular things. And I think you have to understand it as well, especially when posting.
Absolutely. And your target audience also needs to know why they should choose you over another company. So that's your time to shine, really
Right.
Advertise the culture of your company, show them all of the services that you provide. You can even create a blog or a video to highlight what you're doing in the community behind the scenes, or even projects from day-to-day work.
Yeah, we often say story is the language of the heart, right? And when you are conducting business, when you are working with other clients, when you are doing community outreach, when you're having team building events, all of that tells a story, and you want to be intentional with telling that story, right? And putting that and positioning that in front of this up and coming generation, right? This new wave of workers that the industry, that your company, quite frankly, is so much in need of. So how do we appeal to them? How do we be as ubiquitous as we can, meet them where they are, right? Be in the intersections of all of the information that they're being inundated with. And then how do you differentiate yourself from the pack?
Right. Absolutely. And I think in that sense, it's also really important to highlight how much you value employees on your website, on your social media. And the more you do that, the more likely someone can come across someone who they can relate to. That's also really important when appealing to the younger generation, is showing them that, oh, I could fit in this company. And that's really important.
Yes, absolutely. Right. Can I see myself there? Right. And what is unique about that?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. I think companies have to take that into consideration. All right. And then Terrez, we're talking about your age group. We're talking about this up and coming talent that is moving into the workforce. So talented, but there's a lot of untapped potential that's out there, because the industry, right, it's an area of opportunity to bring more visibility and awareness. And so that's what we're doing now. Talk to us a little bit though about your perspective and your take. So how much of construction did you know about prior to starting with ConstructReach? And then how has that helped you maybe understand a little bit more what the industry has to offer?
Okay, so good question. Before working with ConstructReach, I literally knew the bare minimum about the construction industry. Going into it, I'm like, okay, there aren't really much opportunities for growth and development. Like, can I even travel in this field? Is there only hands-on in this field? Can I work in the office in this field? But surely I was wrong. There's so many different opportunities and so many different pathways in this industry. So like, if you don't want to just work hands-on, you don't have to do that. You can work in the office space. If you don't want to just sit at your desk all day, you don't have to do that. You can get the hands-on experience that you need. So it just changed my perspective of all the opportunities and doors and pathways that you can take in the field, and not just have to be on the ground hands-on all day. You could do so many different things in the field.
Now, listen, I hope you guys realize what Terrez just said. So prior to an internship, prior to exposure, he was left with what? A narrow drawn conclusion about what exists within the construction industry. And so he automatically excluded different career pathways and different interests that he had from that industry. But it wasn't until the opportunity was presented, it wasn't until that opportunity was reachable for him in his context, right, where he was. And then that put him in a position to understand what this industry has to offer, the wide array of different career pathways that exist, being able to tie his talents, his skills, his interests into this industry. And so that's also another thing that we like to amplify, is the importance of leaning into internships and meeting that younger demographic where they are, but also the importance of exposure, right? And so that leads us right back over to Ebony, because she partners a lot with educators. And tell us a little bit about what educators desire for their young people, Ebony.
Oh my goodness. Thank you. I mean, I love that, Terrez, because it really just sets the tone for, again, the 1970 view of construction, which is limited, maybe a hard hat and a hammer, right? But again, like I said before, and like what you just echoed, it is so diverse in opportunities of different pathways. So I love that. So to get to the question at hand about educators, what they're looking for is engagement from the industry, right? How can they have resources, work-based learning within ACTE, right? So that is the career, technology, and educational pathways, right? Whether it's technology, or whether it's engineering, whether it's construction, brown bag opportunities to bring the industry into the classroom. Work-based learning / internships. If I'm a senior, right, getting ready to graduate, what kind of hands-on experience can I experience during my senior year when I'm getting ready to transition or to doing life possibly on my own, right? That's going directly into the industry, maybe into a trade school, technical school, whether that's going through an apprenticeship program or going into a collegiate program. Either way, educators along the K through 12 pipeline, as well as the post-secondary, right, they're looking for that particular engagement. And the way that we really do that is we have this awesome opportunity where we kind of really is the cherry on top, I would say, of all the work that we do. As we are working alongside brands and general contractors of getting them ready, right, to be ready to attract, retain, and develop their talent along with our help. We also partner with educators to say, hey, did you know that XYZ company is looking for young, diverse talent that is great fit based on your academic program? We partner that, right? But then we also do something in the really the high school space called I Built This. We bring youth out to the job site and expose them to the various aspects of construction in a hands-on experience. And they get a chance to walk away exactly what Terrez said. Through exposure and accessibility, it is a game changer. So in this moment of I Built This, and this experience for 4 hours, we have the students engaged, right? They get a chance to walk away different than where they arrived, where they say, I didn't know I can do that. And the cool thing about this industry is one of the few industries in Texas where you can say, I built that. So that way, that theme, when we say, I built this, we want to make sure we're empowering our next generation to let them know that their gifts and abilities can be a signature and a staple in the communities that they live in.
Yeah, no, that is good. And from a young person's perspective, we want to talk about the importance as well, because oftentimes, we talk about it from an employer perspective. Hey, begin to formulate, these formalized internship opportunities, formalize that, right? Like get a plan in place, get a curriculum in place, get a pipeline in place, and do that in a very organized and formalized way. But also there's a benefit for young people to start to seek out opportunities for internships. So Terrez, talk to us a little bit about how your internship experience has helped you with your professional development.
So my internship experience has just helped me just open my eyes to all the different pathways and career opportunities that I have in the industry. And just being able to get hands-on experience and just to see a growing and diverse culture and being able to be a part of it, that just also helped me just develop different skills I can use in the classroom setting, but also in my day-to-day life setting. So just being able to get the exposure that I need to just learn about different business aspects or the construction industry aspect, it's just helping me develop more and more skills. So after my internship or when I graduate, I'm ready to hit the ground running. I know what I'm doing. I know what's going on. I know how to talk to different customers or different interns or people. So it's just been strengthening my professional aptitude this whole time. So it's just helping me getting prepared for the real work life and real life experience. So just get that exposure that you need.
Yeah, no, that is good. That is good. You know, one of the goals of this particular episode, you know, first and foremost was for you to see who the ConstructReach team is, but also to hear about the importance of reaching that younger demographic and putting yourselves in a position to be that select employer to move this industry forward from various perspectives, right? And so, you know, begin to be more engaged in your community. There's so many people who are doing great things, who are trying to position young people for success. Begin to be intentional with what's going on and see where you can come in as an employer and add value. You know, position young people to succeed. You know, and it's beginning to not just be close from a proximity point, but to build those healthy relationships. All right, and that is all the time that we do have. So team, I just want to say thank you for joining me today on the iReach podcast. And listen, right, you are always welcome to leave a comment. If we've said something that sparked your interest, drop a comment below, engage with us, let us know what you're thinking. Of course, you can find us on all social media platforms, ConstructReach. Thank you. Thanks again, everybody, for tuning into our show. Remember, like, share, subscribe to the podcast, and join the movement as we reach to build a better future that we can all be proud of.